This is my review of the Lumix 25mm f1.7 lens for Micro Four Thirds system. When I ordered the GH5, I thought I needed some fast lens to go with the kit lens for portrait and bokeh shots. So the first thing caught my eyes was obviously this 25mm f1.7 lens because it's a standard focal range of 50mm in full frame terms. Then f1.7 is a lot faster than f3.5 to 5.6 on kit lens. So it is also inexpensive. So I bought this together with the GH5. But I end up using pretty much only the kit lens and rarely touch the 25mm lens unless I specifically wanted to test this lens out. Here are my reasons why. First, I'm a huge fan of zoom lenses. If I can keep shooting with one lens only, I'd happily do that and never bother to switch lenses. Maybe I'm just lazy, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who has the same problem as me, cannot decide which lens to use when you're out on a shoot. Number two reason is that f1.7 aperture sounds impressive, but in practice it is just so-so. In full frame equivalent, it is merely f3.5, a kit lens level aperture. It does not give me the delicious bokeh I'm used to in full frame system. So f1.7 is, it's kind of difficult to find that kind of crazy bokeh lens in Micro Four Thirds system. That's why I'm looking into adapting lenses with my Viltrox speed booster. So right now I'm trying to sell this lens, but let me tell you all the good and the bad stuff about this lens. So I don't want to discourage you from buying this lens. I just want to inform you what is good for me and what is bad for me, because even if it's not for me, it doesn't mean it's not for you. A lot of people love shooting with prime lenses, and this lens, after all, it's full of merits worth mentioning. So first, it is very light and very small, easy to carry. Mounted on GH5, you can carry it comfortably anywhere you go without breaking a sweat. The build quality is decent, corresponds to its price and market position. Absolutely nothing to complain about. And number two, it has great sharpness from corner to corner. There's not much to say here. It is a solid lens with great image quality. Number three, close minimum focus distance is great for macro shot. You can create a very smooth blur background by getting very close to the subject. This is a great advantage of the Micro Four Thirds system, which you can always get very close to a subject, pretty much with any lens. But on the other hand, the bokeh won't be as impressive at all when you are shooting from distance. As I mentioned before, the f1.7 aperture is similar to f3.5 in full frame. So imagine a 50mm lens between f2.8 and f4. Really nothing special comparing to what you can get in full frame system, like Sony 50mm f1.8. That lens is very inexpensive as well, and the bokeh is much better. And next, the autofocus is pretty bad. I have to be honest here. It is clearly worse than the kit lens. I mean, the kit lens 12 Lumix 12 to 60mm f3.5 to 5.6 is not bad at all. I really enjoy shooting with a kit lens in autofocus. It's pretty fast. But this prime lens it's pretty bad especially when you're shooting in close distance and in darkness. Like it haunts a lot. So many times I found myself having to switch to manual focus during a shoot in such situations. So you might want to keep that in mind as well. And last, the value for money. I think overall it is pretty good. It is a cheap lens and produce a very good image, but it is not what I need. I want zoom lens as always. I love zoom lens. I mean, I always knew that I love zoom lenses, but I got this lens, so I deserve this. I have to sell this now. I'm just finding trouble for myself. Alright, that's it. That's my summary on this lens. I hope this has been helpful for you to choose your next lens. And thank you for watching, and see you next time. Today I'm comparing the GH5 against the Sony A7S II in low light situations. You might say, well, the A7S II is clearly gonna crush GH5 in low light, why bother even testing it? Well, since I own both cameras and I am indeed very curious just how much better the A7S II is, and to what extent can I still use the GH5 in low light condition, because GH5 has become my favorite camera of all time since I purchased it just 3 months ago. Also, I hope this video can also help you with the process of deciding whether or not you wanna upgrade your GH5 to the upcoming A7S III. Anyways, let's just jump into it. I used the Lumix 25mm f1.7 lens on the GH5 and the 24 to 105mm f4G lens on the A7S II because f1.7 from Micro Four Third is roughly equivalent to f3.5 aperture on full frame. So I picked the f4 lens just to give a little bit edge to the GH5 because after all the A7S II has much bigger sensor. On the GH5 I use max auto ISO 3200 while on the A7S II I set auto ISO at maximum of 12,800. I could go higher but that's what I like to use. In very dim lighting condition, if the GH5 exposed to the light source and keep the shadow and dark down, the noise will not show. But in an evenly lit scene, the noise will start to show from the dark area of the image. There's a slightly noticeable difference, but I believe with some post-processing, the GH5 footage is totally usable. When shooting into really dark places, the A7S II obviously taking it like a piece of cake, while the GH5 struggles with the noise, and the pixels start to shift into blue and autofocus starts to lose control. I would say that as long as there's some sort of lighting and if you expose correctly, the GH5 is still very good in low light. The A7S II really shines when you're facing absolutely insane dark scenarios. Here I add a clip shot on GH5, but this time with 6400 ISO, which I think is beyond what GH5 can actually handle. Overall, as I said, if you are careful with your lighting, there's no problem shooting with GH5, but remember that I'm using a f1.7 prime lens on the GH5. I can pretty much use any lens, fast or slow, zoom or prime on the A7S II and get pretty much equally good footage. While with the GH5, you really have to be careful with the lens selection. Micro Four Third lenses are not so fast, especially the zoom lenses. So in the end, the A7S II allows you a whole lot more versatility in terms of lens selection. In the end, I also tested the bokeh. Both look great and I really can't tell much of a difference. Only thing is that the GH5 autofocus completely fell apart and I had to use manual focus here while the A7S II had no problem grabbing focus on any subject. Alright, that's it for this little low light test. Hopefully it has been helpful for you. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more. Bye. Hello, today I'm comparing the Lumix 25mm f1.7 on a GH5 to the Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8 on my Sony A7S II. According to this chart here, f1.7 aperture on the Micro Four Third sensor is right between the f2.8 and f4 on a full frame sensor, so probably f3.5 I think. Anyway, today I took some sample photos to see the bokeh difference. All photos are shot on JPEG, standard image profile, on aperture priority mode. I tried to get as close to the subject as possible for maximum bokeh. I'm surprised to see that Sony produces more vibrance in their image. The color is richer straight out of cameras. Anyways, from these close-up shots, it's pretty difficult to tell the difference, both doing a great job. But when you take a step back and shoot from a distance, the difference begins to show. The Tamron clearly has a more blurry background. When you zoom in, you can see the bokeh in the Tamron is just a little bit better. Here, strangely, after the initial 2 shots, Sony went back to have a bit greenish tint, and the GH5 is the one who has a much better color here. So I guess I can't really judge the color by shooting in auto mode with JPEG. I have to shoot RAW with all menu, I guess. All in all, I would say that there isn't a big enough difference, which means Tamron with its better range is probably a winner for me personally. I probably shouldn't have bought the Lumix 25mm f1.7. Now let's take a look at the videos. The GH5 autofocus really isn't that impressive. I was standing right in front of the camera, yet it had no clue where to grab focus onto. Now let's take a look at the Sony A7S II autofocus. It's notoriously slow, but as soon as it focuses on my face, you can see even though it's slow, but it's very steady, it doesn't lose focus and doesn't miss a beat. So I definitely think this A7S II still beats the GH5 autofocus. Alright, that's the little comparison video for today. Thank you for watching.